Yesterday, we celebrated a big win for consumers as the FCC reinstated net neutrality for all of the American internet. However, these rules have a gaping loophole that allows them to discriminate on speeds and priorities, and I saw this and could only think, what? Like, what's the point then? Government doing its job, I guess. We're going to jump into the details of it. So this article has the good news. Yes, we know that the FCC will not allow them to ban or block or throttle web pages. However, the bad news is that the rules do not prevent an ISP from charging customers more for a so-called internet fast lane for services. So a regular lane and a fast lane. And if there is a fast lane, I think that would imply that there is a slower or slow lane almost by definition, like objective default measurement. That's kind of how that works. And what they're talking about is a technology called 5G network slicing, where ISPs can speed up connections for specific applications or web pages by creating a dedicated 5G fast lane for those priority connections. And the loophole here is that the protection for app providers does not extend to consumers, which means that they could have to pay more for access to faster connections when viewing Instagram, getting a Zoom call, something like that. So the way this works, and this works primarily on 5G technology, but as we'll talk about later, a lot of people are just going 5G for home internet. A lot of people's primary or only internet is just whatever they get on their phone. Not everybody wants to pay for fiber and stuff like that at home. When your mobile phone does everything better, honestly, than a lot of website pages these days. So the corporate idea behind this is to allow Verizon and other companies to set dedicated fast lanes for certain apps or for providers like, we'll say, Netflix or something like that. And the FCC will not automatically apply net neutrality rules to 5G mobile network slices. The net neutrality rules apply more strictly to home internet access and less so mobile internet access, which is confusing to me because, again, as I mentioned, they're almost the same thing now, which is, I just find very, very bizarre. So in the article, it's like, well, what does this mean for the future of net neutrality? The FCC has not explicitly banned network slicing. The commission plans to review instances of unreasonably discriminatory decisions by ISPs on a case-by-case basis. And the FCC goes on to further say that it does not intend to allow network slicing to be used to evade the paid prioritization prohibition. So they are aware of this. They're looking at it. They're worried that this could be abused or something like that. I'm curious as to why it was left in to begin with, and I would wager anything it's because Verizon and AT&T told them that without being able to prioritize certain slices of their 5G network, the whole thing doesn't work, which isn't true. And it's frustrating for me that even when we get a step forward, we also get a step backward, and that all of the companies that provide one of the most essential things for modern living will do anything in the world to avoid upgrading it. They will do anything to avoid being seen as a utility, to avoid just providing service. They want more fees. They want hidden fees. They want subsidies. They don't want to upgrade. They basically want to have their cake and eat it too. They would sell you nothing. They would sell you the promise of megabits later if they could. And this is very, very frustrating to me. Google is feeling pretty confident about bringing pause ads to YouTube. I saw this article on Android Authority saying they're pumped about bringing a new way to show ads. It's not a new way. It's something that Peacock and other platforms have been doing it forever. Here's just the easiest image example I can find. Many of you have probably seen this on Hulu or Peacock. When you pause whatever you're watching, these little ads pop up on the side, usually with a QR code or a click-through link or something like that, so that even when you're not actually watching the video, it's still delivering an ad, which is incredibly frustrating. And Google has decided that YouTube just isn't making enough money. So they're bringing pause ads to YouTube, and they claim that it's yielded some very positive results. They call it a new non-interruptive ad format. Although it's probably not, because you pause things when your video is interrupted for other reasons, but it is kind of annoying and creepy. In Alphabet's latest earnings call, Google's Philip Schindler, who is the chief business officer for the company, shared positive results of an ad experiment the company had been running on YouTube, saying, "In Q1, we saw strong traction from the introduction of a pause ads pilot on connected TVs, a new non-interruptive ad format that appears when users pause organic content. Basically, what they have been doing so far is only using this on smart TVs because it doesn't make a lot of sense for PC and mobile at the moment. But they feel like it's making them revenue. They feel like it doesn't bother customers very much. And they're just going to be rolling out these pause ads. So YouTube is going to start looking increasingly like Hulu and Paramount Plus and Peacock and HBO Max and every other streaming. It's not even HBO Max, it's regular Max now. Every other streaming service on the planet. Now, I pay for YouTube Premium because the ads started getting a little bit outrageous, and I liked YouTube Music, and I drove me nuts to have ads in between songs because I like to put on my headsets and go to sleep and, play an ad and just wake me up from dead sleep because my music stopped. But this is frustrating, it's creepy, and it seems like every day there's a new, weird, invasive way to show people ads, and we are getting every day closer to exactly what happened in the first episode of Futurama where Fry had ads in his dreams. Scientists have invented self-assembling synthetic cells that act like living cells with extra abilities. A little bit of a mouthful here, but it's an extremely cool story, one that's probably a little bit beyond my expertise to fully explain, but we're going to dive in anyway. Using DNA and proteins, scientists have created new synthetic cells that act like living cells, blurring the line between artificial and living materials. These cells can be programmed to perform multiple functions, opening the door for new synthetic biology that goes beyond nature's ability. So it goes on to explain about cytoskeletons, which is where cells get their structure. And a cytoskeleton can be flexible and it can have a couple of different functions. So for this particular study, scientists from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill developed synthetic self-assembling, I believe that's very important, cytoskeletons built out of DNA, peptides, and a little bit of other genetic material. Now, typically, cytoskeletons are not built out of DNA. They're built out of something very, very different. However, for the purpose of this study, researchers decided to use DNA as more of an architectural, building block type material instead of a reed. Okay, so if the information on a DNA is analogous to the information on, say, a CD, God, that's dating me. Instead of using DNA to print instructions for how to build something cool, they just made a stack of CDs. So the DNA itself is doing the structural work of these things. And you can program this material and place it in a drop of water, and the structures will just take shape. So researchers were able to program the DNA to assemble in a couple of different ways that could give the cells different functions. And when you change the temperature, it can trigger different configurations, which of course gives it different functions. The cells were stable at up to 50 degrees Celsius, which is way hotter than human cells are stable to, which means that you can manufacture cells with extraordinary capabilities in environments that would be normally unsustainable for human life. And they believe that these are going to be useful for regenerative medicine and drug delivery systems, as well as diagnostic tools and other applications. So these aren't cells that have as many functions as our blood cells or anything complicated like that, but they are getting a step closer, and they're doing so out of what we would have previously considered dead materials, and they're also more durable than our normal cells, along with the synthetic proteins that AI are making. We're getting one step closer to not just making an android or a robot, but a fully artificial human being at some point 50, 100 years from now. It's going to be absolutely wild. Very cool science. I hope that it gets used in medicine very, very soon to deliver drugs where they need to go. Our first story today seems boring at first, but is actually kind of cool, as scientists have invented a new type of circuit board that can be repeatedly recycled. And there's actually a little image of it right here. A couple of them, as you can see, it easily breaks apart into these little glass or jelly-like structures. But let's talk about the problem first. The United Nations report found that the world generated about 137 billion pounds of electronic waste in 2022, which is almost doubled up from 2010. Now, electronic waste is monitors, washing machines, projectors, keyboards, lots of parts with silicon, wire, circuitry, glass, batteries even, and most of all, circuit boards, because circuit boards are designed to withstand chemical erosion and a wide variety of temperature ranges, which makes them very durable and great for printing circuits on, but it also makes them nearly impossible to recycle. What little we do recycle right now is probably burned to extract whatever valuable metals they have, like gold and copper, and the rest of it's just thrown away. It just creates a whole bunch of waste in and of itself. However, a team led by researchers at the University of Washington developed a new type of circuit board that performs on par with traditional materials and can be recycled repeatedly with negligible material loss. They do this with, researchers are using a solvent that transforms a type of vitrimer, a cutting-edge class of sustainable polymers, to a jelly-like substance without damaging it. So the solid components can be literally plucked out. As we've kind of got going on here, you can see a circuit board, and then you can see on this image where the jelly has been extracted and how you can just pick off the individual pieces. And the vitrimer jelly can be used repeatedly to make new high-quality circuit boards here, which is very common. They call them VPCBs, or vitrimer printed circuit boards. And researchers are able to recover 98% of the vitrimer and 100% of the glass fiber, as well as 91% of the solvent. And what's cool about these is they actually work for most circuit board applications. Most things that circuit boards do, the new VPCBs can do. There are, of course, a few exceptions. And you can manufacture them with almost identical processes as you could with traditional circuit boards. So there's not a major need to retool manufacturing or restructure most electronics, which is just fantastic. And hopefully in the future, we can cut back on some of this electronic waste, because this stuff is bad. If you think throwing garbage out, like old banana peels that smell bad, is bad, this stuff is around for hundreds of years.